In this video, I would like to point out something we have been programmed to since children. How it destroys our contentment of life, how it destroys love and joy of life, and how it lays to waste any possibility of true and accurate relationship. First of all, I'm going to give an example of this automatic psychological phenomenon. Let's say you have had a serious and aggressive argument with someone you call a friend or a close family member. This must have taken place millions of times in this world recently over appropriate or inappropriate action to meet the recent pandemic. Families have been divided. Husband against wife, mother against children, friendships irrevocably broken. It's all over now. As the wake fades to nothing behind the sailing ship, the past is over now, a new day has arrived. But it's not, is it? The memory cells of the brain hold on to the offending matter, both sides laying claim to truthful action, neither side completely certain, but remaining with their limited opinions and ideas. The offending words spoken and actions taken remain in memory. The brain churns these over again and again, and the human heart comes to live in a land fearful and full of turmoil, and relationships wither and die. Then it happens. You meet the person in a supermarket, on a street, or in a cafe, but you don't meet them as you once had. No longer are there friendly smiles and hugs. At best now, a strained atmosphere of tolerance exists. At worst, a battle continues. Continuity has been given to that which was over. Continuity has been given to a destructive event in life. As children, each of us endured 12 years of so-named education, which was not really education, not if the judging criteria of its effectiveness was how well we might come to meet life and fit into this world, to lead a happy, contented life of deep relationship, meeting life's demands with joy in our hearts and peace in our minds. Education had other ideas, all damaging to life, all limiting to the human brain, all denying the arising of intelligence within the child, all dumbing us down. Many of them actually. In this film, we're going to investigate one particularly limiting and damaging effect our education has had on all of our lives. It's past time to do this, for unless we can understand and move out of this destructive cycle, this effect of this educational conditioning, our race is unlikely to survive itself. At least, not so many of our race, if not the species itself. I'm talking about the programmed activity of the brain cells of every child, which every adult continues throughout the whole of life. I'm talking about the action of living unquestioningly within memories, which is to live in the past. During the 12 plus years of education, the primary mandated occupation is to memorize. Test after test, exam following exam, memorize poetry, history, geography, languages, maths, arithmetic, physics, biology. You remember all that stuff? Likely not the content of it, at least not much, for it truly held little value to your approaching life. But you will remember the subject names of the information crammed into brain cells day after day after day, month after month, year after year, over a total time span of longer than a decade. If education continued for you after your school years, well, the practice of utilising memory also continued. Perhaps you were involved in this art of memorising over decades. Many of us have been. Now, if a human brain repeats any activity over and over again, two things happen in life. First of all, the task, difficult upon first few steps, becomes easier and easier. In time, the brain becomes proficient in application, and the process becomes automatic. Think of driving a car. How difficult was it to learn to drive? Steer, change gears, the clutch, the brake, and simultaneously watch out constantly not to hit another car or mow down a pedestrian. An almost impossible act when you come to think about it. Yet almost all of us master the art in time, pass our driving tests, and are set loose into the world of driving. And in time, we do this without even giving it a thought. We can listen to music. We chat with others in the car. Dangerously, we might even come to send text messages, while we simultaneously balance so many other plates. So little attention in the end need be given to the act of driving that we may come to find that we have actually driven a long journey home and hardly even noticed the road we travelled to get there. We have been inwardly occupied with other things. The process has become automatic. This has happened to all of us within the questionable instilled art of memorizing during all school years. The decade or two of continual memorization has become automatic. The brain began to direct its life into this automatic inner function laid down by society. How does this automatic activity present in your life today? It is the process of thinking. Thought is memory in action, nothing more and nothing less. Memory is the past and the past is over. And yet now, programmed and conditioned to this activity for so many years to the point of automation, our lives are lived machine-like in nature, and our lives have come to be lived in the past. Thought is memory, gathered knowledge of past experiences, limited in nature, and so different and so divisive between us all. Memory has useful function, to remember how to drive that car, to remember where you live, what your name is, where and how you work, and the many other complexities involved in the daily tasks you live within and the work you do. Memory is very useful to life, in measured quantities, and in areas where memory is useful. There are many areas in life, however, where memory becomes extremely destructive, due to its limited and so divisive nature, as in the case of forever laying to waste personal relationships, as discussed earlier. A family quarrel may be over, but memory keeps it alive forever, and builds a sense of progressively continuing hurt in our lives, which we come to project the blame of onto the other, as though they were the cause of the inner hurt we perceive to our lives. And of course, they, programmed to live psychologically in exactly the same way as I, are doing exactly the same thing, only from their particular life perspective and viewpoint. The images differ, the movement is the same, and life becomes a battlefield. Of course, the truth is that the other has had little to nothing to do with the continual and building inner hurt I now feel and live desperately within, as I have had nothing to do with theirs. A hurt like this may build and grow and be added to such an extent that life becomes something I drag myself through daily more than enjoy. In extreme cases, such hurts lead our lives into unspeakable acts against another or against ourselves. And they do so, not because the hurt is being caused by the other, although this is certainly the feeling. The hurt, in actuality, is being caused by this inner process of learned and programmed memorization, churning through the same issues over and over again, building images, a movement in words and hurt feelings. This is the end result of the seemingly innocent practice of leading our lives into an automated process of living within memory, which is living within knowledge, which is living in the past. The end result of our education, designed in great part, interestingly enough, by John D. Rockefeller, the same man responsible for the allopathic system of health, which came to greatly replace our reliance on plants and natural substances. This allopathic system profits from phenomenal sales of antidepressants yearly, making pharmaceutical corporations phenomenally rich and missing the mark entirely. For this inner predisposition we all have to anxiety, stress, fear, hurts, pain and depressions has more to do with our inner educated thinking processes than it does with any chemical imbalance in the brain or effectiveness of such antidepressants to treat inner undesirable states of mind, which are undesirable states of memories. Undesired past events recorded in knowledge, playing continuously within the cells of the brain in symbolic form. We become prisoners within this automated, educated psychological process, and our life passes us by. As we do our best, inevitably, greatly limited as we have become. In time, we seek answers to this inner complexity and the many issues and unwanted ill effects it all brings to our lives. And society provides these by the bucket load. Pray. Think positively, meditate, practice awareness, visit a therapist, a priest or a doctor. And nothing solves the problem of our inner complexity, legacy of having been automated to inner physical area of our brain cells in mechanical function, automated to living in the past. We try our best to only think positive thoughts, which may generate feelings of greater contentment, and our minds again become a battlefield as we continuously strain to focus on the positive and suppress opposing arising undesired images and emotions. We seek mindfulness of the totality of life, and yet our inner state, which is seeking such awareness, is one of unawareness, in the same exact manner as one may come to be so adept at driving a car that one becomes completely unaware of doing so. The process of inner movement within past memories, a process of replaying past events, is what now seeks to become aware of what lies beyond its own nature, which of course is an impossibility. Perhaps for the time being, enough of a journey into the inner nature of humanity we have learned to call mind, which is nothing of the kind. Rather, this is a limited process of the mind, a chattering, conflicted, desirous, fearful, pleasure-seeking, repetitive movement of mundanity within the recorded knowledge-based structure of the human brain's memory cells, thanks to a dumbing down education. Let's move so-called inner to outer, from the memory of cells of the human conditioned and programmed brain to the outer world of our life existence, from which all inner recordings initially arrive. Our outer world is just as chaotic as our inner world, and expectedly so. For our outer world is governed by the life actions each of us takes in our inner structures of thinking. Thought drives our actions, and our actions construct the society we live within. Therefore, this inner scholastic, mechanized inner movement of human memory is the very root of all movements, responsible for the chaotic and obscenely destructive, divisive world of disharmony we all live within. We record and replay the same inwardly, and so our inner world becomes a chaotic reflection of the outer world we inhabit. Humanity has lost the ability to relate to meet, to care for, and to love, because we are all, every single one of us, automatically self-obsessed with this inner movement of thoughts and images. This had become the primary distraction to life itself, long prior to the unfortunate arrival of the smartphone, which holds every young life to an outer endless procession of moving words and images. The same way the movement of human, mechanized, educated thoughts holds all our lives to an inner, self-induced, endless procession of the very same. Our brains are in constant, never-ending, tiresome, fearful, ambitious, desirous, pleasure-seeking occupation, and what is occupied is never free, and so we have lost freedom. As the recordings within each individual brain itself are different, as no human brain undergoes the exact same past experiences, the actions we take in life from this movement of inner thinking is different for each one of us, and so our actions become self-interested, self-driven, and naturally lose concern for the lives of others not within our limited daily life experiences. We become selfish in nature, unloving. The root of a selfishly led life is this inner incessant movement within us all, for this is the human self, the ego in psychological garb, and every one of us is in possession of a human self, and so every one of us is self-centered, self-interested, and to be self-centered and self-interested in life is to be hopelessly caught in a movement of life-rotting selfishness. Another thing installed into our brains during school years is the concept of time. Time is only a concept. Time does not exist in this universe outside of the human brain. Time is a process of measurement, a convenience which has risen to a stature undeserving. We divide our lives into seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades. Over longer periods, we count centuries and even millennia. The number we give to a year is a mere process of arithmetic. 2023 came after 2022, and 2024 is the number which naturally follows. Time is measurement, life is timeless. Life is only ever found now. This present moment is all there is to life, and so life is incredibly simple in nature, yet we complicate it incredibly by carrying our totality of past remembered days along for the ride and projecting the same past days in a line of infinite continuity, ambitiously, into a conceptual ideological future which never existed outside the memory cells of the brain which invented them. Our whole culture and society is based on this numerical measurement. Those with the highest numbers in the financial world are given the driving seats to our whole world. Not the most intelligent, not the wisest, not the most caring or loving, those with the most numbers. A clear example of how we blindly follow this god of measurement, and a clear example of the outrageous stupidity and absolute danger which necessarily follows a race of people being led into a future from past experiences lived dividedly, led by the highest levels of self-interest, hopelessly divorced from the living quality of life, hopelessly unaware of life as it is, caught forever in inner, repetitive, mechanical murmurings of days gone by. Murmurings which never end to the point of death. We even hope these inner murmurings are born into a new life following death. We never conceive of the possibility of a life lived as a very young child, a life of selflessness. And now our lives and our world are being driven towards dictatorship and control. This has happened so many times in the past, though never on such a grand and ambitious scale. This is inevitable to a race of people who live dividedly, and we live dividedly because the ground our life stands on is the ground of inner recorded divisive knowledge in the memory cells of the human brain. Living in our concept of educated time as we do, aiming for future perfection of an imperfect past, we come to fragment in our lives, each of us seeking the fruition of a differing conceptual future led into from a differing recorded past guiding our way. And we come to compete. We come to battle and war. We come to seek the domination of the world we live within. If powerful enough and self-interested enough in the superficial measurement of wealth, of numbers, we come to seek to dominate the whole world. And so we seek to dictate, for in dictatorship, there is a certain order found in the demanding of my way of doing things, which is forced onto the lives of all others. There is great aggrandizement and gratification, the swelling of the inner self, and others are educated or mandated, forced to see my life as being something extraordinary. After all, I am the ordering principle in an otherwise magnificent field of immense disorder. In such a way, what is nothing other than self-interest, which is self-centeredness, which is a conglomeration of memories recorded into human memory brain cells, a gathered bag of rubbish which ought to have been taken out with the trash long ago, comes to dominate the entire field of human lives and human existence. Freedom is freely given over to bondage. Relationship, love, care for life as it is, any sense of contentment and all potential for responsibility and intelligence is lost. All because we were educated to live and function in our lives from a series of memories and ambitious pursuits in competition against one another towards a conceptual future which does not even exist outside of an insistence that it does, an accounting of numbers and the unnecessary measurements of our lives. Can freedom be returned to human consciousness? And what steps, if any, must or must not be taken to do so? How would you find this out? The beginning of all freedom, surely, is freedom from all inner limitations. Freedom from the destructive inner nature of educated self, for the human mind as it is, as it has been educated and programmed to be, is the greatest of all life limitations. Not only to the life of the so-named individual, but to the lives of humanity as a whole, and to the life of our suffering living planet and all other life forms living on it. It is essential that we understand the problems of life we communally meet today. The root of all this is to be found inside each one of us. Close your eyes and listen. Just listen. Seek nothing. Suppress nothing. Run away from nothing. Become familiar with the prison cell you live within, which you identify with as the very central inner nature of your being. When you see the danger of how you are living, you will act. And your action will be the first step, and this first step will be the last step. And this first and last step will be the dawning of a new day for mankind.